today I'm going to show y'all how to join granny squares with the slip stitch method. As you can see here, I have this blanket of granny squares that I've already joined using the slip stitch method. This pattern for these squares with the hearts is free on my blog. I'll link it in the description below if you like these and want to know how to make these. But today I'm just going to show you how I joined them together with the slip stitch method. It's really simple and it creates these nice clean edges around each square. I really like it. And before we get started, be sure and give this video a thumbs up and be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel to never miss any more tutorials and free crochet patterns. And we'll just jump right into this tutorial and I'll show you how to join your granny squares. Okay, so I'm going to show y'all how to seam these. I already have this side seamed and I'm going to just push this up here and start at the bottom. And I'm going to seam this next row together. So I have put a slip knot on my crochet hook. And all you're going to do is, most importantly, the thing is to know where your corners are. I have chain 2s in my corners. If you need to put stitch markers on here to keep track of them, you can if you have trouble finding them. Just, to know where, because if you start down here even and go, it'll be even. If you get off a stitch, it'll be uneven. So just make sure you know where your corners are so you can start on the exact same stitch on each square so it works up evenly. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your hook with a slip stitch on it. I have chain 2s in my corners. I'm going to start on the chain stitch closest to the first stitch here. So I'm going to start this chain stitch. I'm going to go through the front loop at the first stitch there. And this one, I'm going to find the chain stitch, which is right here. I'm going to go through the back loop only, like so. Pull this over. I am going to then slip stitch and pull my yarn through all 3 of those stitches. And once you get it going, it's a little bit easier to do. Now, a lot of times what I'll do is I will turn it sideways here and work it this way because it's easier for me to hold, but for me doing the video tutorial, I think it's easier for me to show y'all guys this way. And I'll zoom in just a little bit so y'all can see, make sure y'all can see exactly what stitches. So you're going to grab the next stitch up, you're going to grab this front loop, and make sure you keep your working yarn under these stitches, because if it's above, it'll mess with your it'll mess with the top of it. So make sure it's under. So I went through the front loop. I'm going to go through this next stitch here and grab the back loop. And I'm going to yarn over and slip stitch through all 3. Okay. The next stitch, I'm going to grab that front loop. Then I'm going to go over and grab the back loop, making sure to hold my working yarn behind it. Okay. Like so. And as we go a little bit, it'll start to look more. Okay. So now we're going to next stitch, front loop, back loop, slip stitch, front loop, back loop, slip stitch. And that's what it'll look like. So you can see how it goes. And you're just going to do that all the way up. I'll do that all the way till I get to this corner and show y'all how to do this corner, if you want to see how I do the corner with those chain stitches there. Okay, so I've made it to my corner. I have slip stitched all this way, and you can see how pretty of a seam and how flat of a seam it is. It's very flat, it doesn't stick up, and it's just a very nice seam there. So now I'm going to show y'all how I do the corners, because like I mentioned, I have chain 2s in my corners. What I'm going to do is I'm going to I didn't do this very last spot on this one, these 2 squares here. I'm going to do like I did before on this very first chain stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and close these. I'm going to go through the front loop of that first chain stitch and the back loop of that one. And I'm going to pull through, slip stitch like I done all these other ones. And then what I'm going to do is these second chains on here, I'm going to leave those for when I go back from left to right and pick those up when I go back and close those. So then that keeps your seam exactly straight. So when you go to your next square, you're going to go to the chain stitch closest to these stitches in this row. So I'm going to go and I'm going to slip stitch in these stitches. So I'm going to do this chain stitch right here that's right next to it. So I'm going to go grab my new square. And the most important thing is to remember to keep your yarn behind it and not on top of it, because if you get on top of it, it's going to twist it in front and your seam's not going to be straight. And it's not going to be as pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and go this stitch that's next to this chain, which is next to the stitch. I'm going to go on the front loop only. And then I'm going to find the chain next to this double crochet stitch and go on the back loop only. So there it is. And then I'm going to, I might have to pull that a little bit tight and make sure it's tight. And I'm going to slip stitch there. And on that one, sometimes you have to pull it a little bit, make sure it's tight. There's not like a lot of loose yarn there, so it doesn't leave like a gap. You just have to pull it, make sure it's tight on that one. So going on, you're just going to continue the same way you had been. Front loop. And back loop only. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. So front loop, back loop. And you're just going to work that all the way, all your rows. I would do all your rows up and down. And then when we come back, I'll show you how to go across. And the biggest part when you go across is just this little area right here at the corners to make sure you don't have gaps here. I'll show you how to do that when I get there. Okay, so I have done all my rows going up and down. Now I have turned my blanket and we're going to do the rows that are going in between all the squares. And I just pulled it up here and turned it this way so it's easier to see. And I'm going to show y'all going to start this one exactly like you started the other directions. You're going to do them just the same. I just want to say that. And so I'm going to go ahead, start this one, and get up here to this corner. And when I get up to the corner, I'm going to show y'all how I do the corners and go across this spotted slip stitch. Okay, so I've now got to the corner. I have not done this very last chain space for this square. And I'm going to go ahead and do it like normal. I am going to grab the front loop, go over here, grab the back loop, like so. And what I'm going to do when you get here to go over this this row of slip stitches, the slip stitch that, whatever slip stitch will be closest to the middle of this row, which is going to be this one right there, I'm just going to insert my hook under both loops of that slip stitch, and your yarn's going to go over the row of slip stitch, and you're just going to slip stitch under that stitch like so. And then that gets your yarn to this side without having to run it under the blanket and pull it between these seams. You can just carry it on top like that. And when you get over here to your you got one, you should have, because I had chain twos in the corner, so I have a chain stitch and a chain stitch over here. I'm going to do the front loop like I had been doing over here, put my yarn to the back, and then I'm going to find my back loop on this chain stitch and slip stitch. And then that is how you evenly go over this. And I'll do a couple more so you can see that seam there a little bit better. And you'll just continue going across like so. And that is how you go across those spots on the corners. Like that. And it just makes this perfectly flat seam. And that is how you join granny squares with the slip stitch method. If y'all enjoyed this tutorial, be sure to click subscribe. If y'all haven't, give this video tutorial a thumbs up. And be sure to check out my blog for free crochet patterns and stitch tutorials. Happy crocheting, guys!